Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we got another exciting video for you today. We're going to be changing the front brake pads on my GL1500 here. It's going to be a very simple task, very easy. We'll go through it step by step. None to it. It's something you can do at home in your own garage, save you money. So let me tell you. Alright, first before we get started, let me show you what brake pads we're going to be using.
Okay, before I go too much further with these, first I need to say that I'm not being sponsored by EBC. Wish I was, but I'm not. Alright, I bought these with my own money. Actually, I didn't really buy them. Someone owed me some money. So they got these for me. And today we're just going to concentrate on just these two right here, which will be our front brakes. This one is the back brake, which is a little bit different here. I'll zoom up on the part number. So it's an FA69-3HH. So if you notice, they're a little bit, bulkier, bigger than your front brakes. You can see there's a little bit tad of a difference. And we're going to be going ahead and changing all three, but for this video we're just doing the front, so that'll be later today. Well, for me, a little later for you guys on the video. Alright, when you do your brake pads, you need to make sure you change both sets out. Be changing them at both times. Alright, it's just better that way, and they recommend it, so do it. Alright, for these it's FA124-2HH, and I'll have these in the description for both the front and the rear, so you can go ahead and buy all of them. You need them. Alright, so these EBC brakes, I mean, they're about 35 bucks a piece, I think. So it was like $116 when you got tax and everything. So these things are quite expensive. They're supposed to be pretty good, so I'm hoping they are. This is the first time I've ever used EBC brakes, so we're going to see how this works out. Since this is going on a motorcycle, I was very happy about using these, because in a motorcycle, I believe, use the best you can get. Alright, use some good brakes. Brakes are very important, so I see a lot of people using these in high performance vehicles and all, so it should be really good for our Goldwing here. So I guess after that, let's get cracking at it.
Okay, the first thing we need to do is take this little cover off. It comes right off. As you can see, it just popped right off, and just gently get her out. Alright, it just has one tit and a couple of little clips there. Okay, no big deal. That way it gives us exposure to this nut. Now if you don't have a ring of fire, you don't really have to worry about this stuff. Okay, we got 3 screws for this ring of fire, one here and these 2 down here. So we just need to take them off. Undo the wiring real fast, and now we got access to our brakes. Okay, I want to show you this bracket. I've mentioned it in previous videos before, but this bracket is what goes right here. It keeps the brake line, it goes, like so in there. Alright, and you can see that it's got a label on it. If you can see that in the video, that is labeled R for right side. So make sure you keep it, because the left and the right are different. So for this case, I'm just going to do one side at a time so I don't get anything mixed up. As you can see, they come apart, and it's got a little hook in there that just hooks in there like that. So, alright, nothing to it. Now this is the point where everything went downhill. This is where I ran into trouble, and this is what helped spawn the other 2 videos before this, the master cylinder rebuilt and the bleeding the brake video, which was all because of this little issue right here, which I'm about to point out. Alright guys, if you're noticing something's different here, we are on the other side of the bike. And the reason for that is because we had so much problem with the other Caliper that I needed to show you guys properly how to take this apart. So we're going to do it with this side, because they're both identical, so they should have no problems. Now here's your mounting brackets right here. And right here, these bolts right here, I believe is a 6mm Allen, and that's a 5. Alright, and right here are 2 cap screws. Those are for your hanger bolts for your brake pads. And they need to come off. So before we loosen the bracket up, let's try to loosen these up. Get these caps off. They should come real easy. I say that. Well, if I keep the screwdriver in. Ugh. Alright, that one's, like I said, there. Alright. As you can see, I'm having a little trouble here. So what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to Oh, we're gonna have to penetrate them. So this is what I wanted to show you, how important. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some penetrating oil, penetrate these so that they'll loosen up a little bit. All right, after you penetrate them, I was using some of this WD-40 here, penetrating stuff. This black stuff works really good. And as you can see, it got, see if I can get the screwdriver here in front. Yeah, come out. There we go. Pretty easy. They're starting to turn out. Let's see about the top one. Yeah, ooh, there we go. And they came out not bad. All right, so let's get these out. Now these are just caps. Let's see if I can get these all out so I can show you. Just cap screws. All right, don't lose them. But also on the side note, when you put them back on, don't put them back on super tight either. All right, because the corrosion, rust, and everything will set inside here. Now, if you look inside there, we have another Allen head bolt, which will probably be a number 5. Let's see if I got one here with a close-up. This is what it looks like. All right, and your brake pads, if I had my old brake pads, they slide on here, and that's what holds them on to the caliper. It's just these 2 pins. All right, now the other side stripped out for me, so let's pray that this side doesn't. But I do have an extra good pin in case we lose one. But it's a lot of extra work, because if one of these strips out, we'll have to end up drilling it out, taking it off, rebuilding the lines. It causes a lot of you know, fun activities. What turned into a simple little, you know, 45-minute job just turned into like an all-day affair. So we need to be cautious here. So let me get the other cap screw out, and then we'll start lubricating those and getting those broke free. Alright, that one came free. Alright, we just want to loosen them up and pray that the other one will come through. Oh! I'm sure you guys heard that. Boy, that one was in there. But guess what? They broke free. None of them stripped out, which is good, unlike the other side. So if you have yours stuck up, try penetrating it for a few hours. If that does not work, you know, keep trying to penetrate it more. I'd probably let it go overnight. And if it's still no progress, then you're probably going to have to drill them out. You'll have to disconnect this. You might, disconnect this and pull it off and put it on the device so you can have a better way to work around it. But that will be your only option if you can't get that bolt out. So I've already had to do that. That was not fun, but we did fix it, and we did get those pins. Those pins are pretty high dollar. They're special. You can get on eBay and find them. I don't remember how much they were, but they're not cheap either. I think they're probably about, I want to say $10. I can't remember exactly how much, but luckily I had a friend of mine that had spare parts and had 2 of them. So I borrowed 2 of them, which means I'll have to give him something later in return. But anyway, mine came out on this side, so we're all good. So now we can proceed to taking off the mount bolts here. This should be ready to swing out. And there we go. And there's our pads. As you can see, they're not terrible, they're not bad. And normally I probably would have just took these to the wire brush and probably knocked the glaze off of them. But since we had so much trouble with the other brake pads, and I went ahead and put new brake pads on the other side, we're going to go ahead and replace these. Because it was just so much trouble, I don't want to mess with it again. Seriously, I don't want to mess with it again. So, now that we got these already broke free, we can go ahead and take those out. There they are. Probably the original brake pads since today they came from the factory, most likely. Okay. Now, we can go ahead and, first thing we'll do is go ahead and reset our pistons. If you have a C-clamp, that'll work pretty good. Channel locks work good, or anything else you can think of that'll help squeeze it down. Okay, I've got my C-clamp on here, and I want to show you that I got a brake pad here that I'm going to use as a pad to help push it down, both pistons at the same time. You can probably do it one at a time, but I decided I wanted to just get it done both at one time, so I centered it the best I could. I got my C-clamp ready, and now we're going to squeeze and push the pistons back. And they went in there real easy, so that made quick work of the job, which is sad because these pads were probably still good for a good long while, but due to all the corrosion control, just don't want to take a chance of them screwing up later on. As you can see, our piston, well, there it goes. Yeah. You can almost push these back. Oh yeah, you almost push that one back by hand. So there they are. They're both flat and they're ready to go. So now we need to clean up our hardware here on our bolts here. We need to go ahead and probably take these to the wire wheel, clean them up, polish them up. Then we'll take some brake lubrication, put back on them. And I'll show you guys all about that here in just a little bit. Alright, before we put our brake pads back in and everything, I want to make sure that you guys know about this, that this little slider bracket does. Let's see if I can get it to come out. Now come out, you. There you go. Comes right out. What we need to do is clean those pins up, wipe all the old grease off on there, and put some new, let's see if I can show it over here. Brake lubricant over here. I'm using Permatex extreme pressure, so this is some good stuff. So we're going to clean those pins up and we're going to put some new grease on them so they'll be good to go. Voila! Look at that. See? Now it's going to move nice and smooth. Got some new grease on it. So that is good to go. Now if you got a little bit too much excessive, you know, you can wipe up a little bit. It's okay to have a little bit, but we don't want too much. But there we go. Alright, now that's done. We can get to our brake pads. Alright, here's our new brake pad. Right here you can see a nice EBC brake pad. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some brake lubricant on the back of this pad. Nothing crazy. Just kind of, well, you know, get it a little bit. This is supposed to help keep the vibration or the squealing down. If it rubbing, having a little grease on here. I do this a lot on automotive cars. Helps keep the noise down. Make sure you don't get none on the front. We just want it on the back. Alright. And the way that one will go in, it will face back, you know, one of them will go towards the piston, like that. But I'm going to put that down so we can do the other pad. Alright, we got our bolts back from the wire wheel. Nice and smooth. That'll be great. Our brakes will be able to move properly. Won't get hung up on some of the old dirt grease that was on there. Clean up the threads a little bit. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and grease these up too. Not too much. Don't need to get too carried away, but I would grease them up just a little bit. And I'd also put a little grease on the threads a little bit. That way it will help prevent corrosion and hopefully stop for what happened to me on the other side from one of these getting stuck and stripped out, because you can see it wouldn't take much to strip these out if it was in there good. So put a little grease on there and hopefully it will help us and go a long way there. Alright, got them both down. Now I did them by hand just to get them started, so they'll be in there. And as you can see, our pads are nicely in there. We'll have to they'll be spaced apart when we get ready to put them on the rotor. But they're in there, they're not falling out. So we'll tighten them up once the mounting bracket gets on. So what I'm going to do with those bolts too, these bolts, is we'll put a little bit of grease on them too. That way it helps protect against corrosion and whatever junk this thing sees. So we're going to go ahead and put the caliper back on. Alright, once we got it all finger tight, let's go around and tighten them all up. Alright, now these bolts, don't tighten them up too tight. Alright, just give them a good, good little 2-finger tightness. Alright, because we don't want it to be a pain the next time you got to replace them. Alright, now we're ready for our cap screws. Alright, here we are. I'm also going to dab a little bit of grease on these too, because these were hard to come out and we don't want those stripping out, because that could be another all-day repair or a good bit time wasted on these. So grease them up, start them up, put them on. Tighten these up. Let's not do them super tight. Just give them a good Evo. Nothing super crazy. Again, because we don't want these to be rusted shut. We want to be able to get them off next time. Alright, let's get a give. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, that one's good. Alright, we're going to wipe off the access. There we go, so it's not so greasy everywhere. And there you go. That's how you rebuild your brake caliper. Now let's put it back together. Alright, once you got everything situated, everything looks good, everything's locked down, tied up, we can now put our ring of fire on. If you don't have one and you don't have to worry about it, on a little side note on your ring of fire, don't forget to put your little clip in. As you can see there, I've got it pinched, and it goes in between that with that bolt. I'll have to put the brake line in there. I'm just showing you guys an illustration here. And then you got your 3 bolts, the 2 right there, and then the one where that bracket goes. Don't forget to plug in your wires. So I'm going to get to it. Once you get all that back on, we just got to put on one plastic piece here, a little trim. That goes right there. So all we got to do is just slip her on. Okay, once she's all nice and flush, she's in there, she's good to go, and we are done with this side. Alright guys, once you finish that side, go ahead and do the other side. They need to really be changed out in pairs. It's the exact same way as this side. They're both identical. The little bracket that holds the brake line may be a little bit different, but it works on the same principle. Alright guys, that is going to do it today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And just let you know, if you have any problems with this, just know it's completely normal. Like I had problems with this. you know, with those bolts coming out, it happens. These bikes are old, they're not brand new, they're gonna have a little bit, but if you take your time, work it out a little bit, it'll turn out okay. Alright guys, well that's gonna do it for that, and I hope I'll see you here next time for our next video. So you guys stay safe out there.